You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the April 2nd, 2024 regular council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. I'm Vicki Hogarth.
And I'm Florence Mitchell. 3 presentations will be made in today's meeting. The first by Dillon Consulting on the Environmental Trust Fund Project Organic Compost Study. Charlene Hatt of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission will ask the town to sponsor the 2024 Southwest Business Summit. Finally, Alexander Gopin of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission will make a presentation on amendments MP 20-08 to the Municipal Plan MP 20-01 and Amendment Z22-06 to Zoning Bylaw Z22-01.
In the Public Works and Public Safety Committee, Councillors Bennett and Neal will propose awarding a contract to Cahill Technologies for the replacement and installation of 2 self-cleaning water filters, totaling $247,645.98 plus HST. In Economic Development, Councillors Hurl and Weir will suggest providing financial support to the 2024 Southwest Business Summit, with the amount to be determined.
Under Recreation and Environment, Councillors Gumashell and Blanchard will recommend awarding the Van Horn Trail Extension Tender to Fundy Contractors Limited for $722,129.16, including HST. They'll also propose accepting the Organic Compost Study from Dillon Consulting as part of the Environmental Trust Fund for 2023 and 2024. Additionally, they'll suggest approving the closing of Market Wharf on Tuesday, April 8 from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. to support the St. Andrews Business Improvement Area's Solar Eclipse Viewing event. They'll further propose supporting the Ocean Global Canada Atlantic Blue Economy Summit in St. Andrews.
Under the Planning and Community Development Committee, Councillors Harland and Heenan will recommend scheduling a public hearing of objections to Amendment MP 20-08 to the Town of St. Andrews Municipal Plan MP 20-01 and for Amendment Z22-06 to the Zoning Bylaw Z22-01 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo on Monday, May 6 at 6:30 p.m. They'll also suggest seeking the views of the Planning Advisory Committee on the proposed amendments. Additionally, they'll propose scheduling another session for Monday, May 6 at 6:45 p.m. to obtain views on text amendment Z22-07 to the Zoning Bylaw Z22-01.
Now let's join Council at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Council Chambers.
All right, let's call to order the regular council meeting here for the town of St. Andrews, Tuesday, April 2nd, 6:30 p.m. at the council chambers. This meeting, in addition to being in person, will be aired through Zoom and on the Town of St. Andrews Facebook page, thanks to our friends at CHCO around back. If anyone has any questions related to anything pertaining to tonight's agenda, you can email your questions to pnopper@Town of St. Andrews, and Mr. Nopper will make sure to put those in the Facebook comments. Or, of course, you can log in through Zoom, and at the end of the meeting, there will be a call for any questions. Before we get underway, let's do the recording of attendance. I see that all members of council are in attendance and in person, so great to see. And I do want to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Beskoto-Magadi people. So I'll be looking for an approval of the agenda. Could I have a mover? All right, got Councillor Heenan and seconded by Councillor Harland. There is a slight amendment I will propose. I think it's a little far for a friendly amendment. You would have got in your council package a couple of additional notes. So under new business, I'm hoping someone will move to add the discussion around the town of St. Andrews brush removal, and as well garbage or waste removal as it relates to kind of multiple residential units. We'll have a conversation on that. So could I have a mover to amend to add those 2 new business? I've got Deputy Mayor Akchi and seconded by Councillor Hurdle. Any other additions? The only other thing I'll add is we don't need to amend the agenda, but I think it'd be good if we move planning and community development forward. So Mr. Gopin and as well as the applicants are here, although they probably want to be here for the entire exciting meeting. It'd be good to maybe move it to the front. So I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. And that's everybody. Agenda has been carried. So disclosure of conflict of interest, any this evening? I think I'm good. So we're going to jump right into presentations. The first one is in regards to Dillon Consulting. They're doing the presentation on the Environmental Trust Fund project, which is the organic compost study.
Thank you, Ed. I'd like to ask Ms. Samantha Halloran from Dillon Consulting to unmute and to open her camera.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Share screen is available for you as well.
So good evening. My name is Samantha Halloran, and I'm a waste management planner with Dillon Consulting. So Dillon was retained in December 2023 by the town of St. Andrews to complete an organics compost feasibility study. So I'm here to present the findings. So the presentation follows the same approach as the report. I'll first outline the project scope, provide some baseline information about the current services in the town, discuss the future population growth and organic waste generation. Then I'll review the options that were evaluated, followed by our recommendations that are outlined in the report. And I believe there'll be time for questions at the end as well. So to begin, the study objective was outlined in the request for proposals that was issued by the town to determine options for Bayside, Chamcook, and St. Andrews to consider an organic waste composting program. And our approach for the study is outlined on the right of the slide with 9 tasks to achieve the study's objective. So as a first step, understanding the project's drivers is an important part of gathering background information for the study. So we understand that St. Andrews developed a community-based climate adaptation plan in 2019. And from that, an environmental advisory committee was formed in 2020. And that committee meets on a monthly basis to generate recommendations to council on environmental matters and support positive environmental management practices and policies. And we understand that composting is one of the 3 current priorities of the Environmental Advisory Committee. The study is also well aligned with provincial priorities currently. So New Brunswick released its strategic action plan for solid waste management for 2023 to 2030 with the goal to reduce 40,000 tons annually of landfilled waste. And one of the 4 pillars of the strategy is focused on organic waste and reducing regional landfilling of organics to avoid associated greenhouse gas emissions. And 2024 is listed as a year within that strategic report to focus on organics. So after understanding some of the drivers in the strategic alignment of the study, the next step for us was to understand the current state of waste management. The town currently provides waste hauling as described in the table. So we understand that the town does provide leaf and yard waste pickup and drop-off services seasonally to residents. Leaf and yard waste is a type of organic waste, and it's currently composted in outdoor windrows on the public works yard. Data was also provided to us from the waste hauler on garbage volumes hauled between 2021 and 2023. And annually, the volumes were about 560 to 620 tons of garbage collected per year, with seasonal increases in the summer months as a result of higher population due to seasonal residents. And the garbage is hauled and disposed of at the Hemlock Knoll landfill. And so to understand and plan for the town's future needs, we looked at a 20-year time horizon. We assessed both the future population of the town and the projected organic waste volumes that would be generated by that population. And we understand there's been an amalgamation of Bayside and Chamcook into the town in terms of waste collection and services. So these populations were included in the projection, and the future growth scenarios were provided by information from the town. And to generate future organic waste volumes, as the town or regional service commission doesn't have waste audit data, we relied on provincial averages for residential waste composition to understand how much organic waste is present in the waste stream. So waste audits are typically the most accurate approach to project waste volumes of a given type, just since there's variability in waste composition across demographics and region. But for the purposes of this estimation and this report, we used the provincial averages. and only food waste was considered as an organic waste for this study, because the town does have a low cost option right now of managing leaf and yard waste. So here's a figure which projects both the population over a 20-year period and the food waste generated and potentially diverted over that same time. So the year is along the bottom on the x-axis, showing the 20-year period in 5-year increments, and the orange line represents the population growth projected during that time. The blue bars represent the total tons of food waste food waste. The dark blue bar represents the total tons of food waste generated, whereas the lighter blue bar beside it represents the tons that would be anticipated to be diverted through an organic waste program. And this is because even if a program is implemented, even in mature programs, you don't get 100% of residents participating. Typically, you see about 80% of people participating in the program. And even for those who do participate, they will still missort some food waste into the garbage. So these are sort of industry standard values that are typically used to estimate the amount of food waste that could be diverted through an organics program. The next step was to look at collections and processing approaches. So overall, we assessed 4 options for collecting organic waste. The first 2 are sort of drop-off style options, where residents would be required to collect their food waste at home and bring it to a specified destination, either to a common area for a community composting program or to residential drop-off bins located around the community. We also assessed 2 approaches for curbside collection, similar to the curbside service that residents currently receive for garbage and recyclables. So we looked at manual collection. In this case, it was bagged organic waste collection, and then wheeled cart collection, either through semi-automated or automated vehicles. So our assessment evaluated the operational complexity, the capital and operating costs, the potential diversion from landfill, and then compatibility of the collection approach with the organic processing system. Ultimately, our recommendation is to pursue a curbside collection option, either through a manual collection or wheeled cart collection. In our national and international experience, drop-off approaches lead to very low participation rates. Curbside programs have high participation and therefore lead to high rates of diversion from landfill. So for residents, it's all about, convenience, simplicity. So we do recommend going with the curbside collection program if you're looking to optimize organics diversion. A caveat about the manual collection is that it must be compatible with the organic processor's capabilities for reception. So in our study, we address a case study in New Brunswick where the manual collection is done in bags. So the organic waste is bagged and collected that way. And this is only possible if the organic receptor is capable of processing bagged organic waste. So in our study, we also outlined some compost processing technologies, such as these presented in this slide, which are capable of processing food waste in small volumes. That is sort of like this scenario in St. Andrews. So we're looking at fairly small volumes of food waste. And food waste, unlike leaf and yard waste, is highly odorous and so requires needs enclosed composting approaches with odor management, odor treatment, and in controlled environments to maintain processing conditions and achieve end product quality standards, so compost quality standards. And the small volume of organic waste generated by a small population center like St. Andrews is complicated from an operational perspective to keep material composting and meeting this quality standards. In our experience with smaller food waste composting operations, it's very difficult to maintain a successfully operating site at a really small scale. Additionally, the capital costs are quite high, and so they can be better managed across a larger volume of organic waste. So we also evaluated facilities within a practical hauling distance of the town. So the town currently hauls its waste to Hemlock Knoll. They don't currently have composting services, but given the operational efficiencies of hauling material to the same location, we did engage with them to ask about composting. They said it's on their radar, but they didn't provide timelines for when composting could be made available at Hemlock Knoll. Crane Mountain Landfill currently provides composting services to Regional Service Commission 9. They pre-process material and then it's sent to the Envirom facility in Clarendon for composting in open windrows. The Envirom facility in Clarendon does also compost large quantities of other types of organic waste, such as forestry residuals. Envirom does have another facility near Fredericton, but we didn't hear back from them at the time of reporting. And additionally, the Southeast Eco 360 is a large waste management facility that's owned by Regional Service Commission 7. It does provide services to other RSCs as well. They have a large composting operation, but we didn't hear back from them at the time of reporting. So using this information from the study, we developed a recommended approach. Ultimately, our recommended approach is to first establish planning timelines, regardless of the approach that the town wants to proceed with. There are elements of implementing an organics program that take time and require planning. As mentioned, some of the curbside collection approaches need to consider what the processing option will be in order for it to be compatible. If there's a need to make capital purchases, that sort of thing. So planning timelines can sort of help align expectations for implementation timelines. And to provide organic composting services to the town's residents, the recommended approach is to implement a curbside collection program, and then seek a contract with Crane Mountain Landfill for organics reception, pre-processing, and composting at the Envirom facility in Clarendon. We also recommend that the town collaborate with other regional municipalities on organics, approach Regional Service Commission 10, and encourage provincial engagement on strategy and analysis and implementing a province-wide approach to organics management, which would support the goals and commitments of New Brunswick in waste diversion and achieve overall greater cost and operational efficiencies for organics management. Thank you for your time and attention to the presentation. And if there's any questions, we'd be happy to take them. I do have some colleagues, I believe, on the line as well.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you very much for the presentation. You say you recommend curbside pickup for this method of composting. Do you recommend how often? What the frequency of that pickup would be?
Yeah, the report does outline a recommended frequency. Best practice is typically to collect weekly, and that's, again, from an odor standpoint and, any pest management, that type of thing. So typically it would be a weekly collection of organics, or bi-weekly. There is some flexibility there, I suppose, but typically weekly or bi-weekly.
Well, thank you. I don't know if you're aware or not, but 1/3 of this community is now Bayside and Shamcook. We live in rural, outside of the town limits, the old town limits, and both communities in the summer months are plagued with bears. So having smelly compost outside of our homes would be very detrimental. And got two of us here on council right now have dealt with this in the past year of having bears beating on our garbage cans outside of our house. So, having compost, that draws huge, animals into the area. So less frequent than a week would, it would probably mean us not participating in that program because we wouldn't have, that smell near the house, right? We can't even keep our garbage near our house, when the bears are around. So that's something to seriously consider when we're deciding what we're going to do here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Councillor Harlan.
Thank you. And so based on the study, it's clear that there's no immediate kinds of solutions. It sounds like there is more work to be done. And I recognize that you're recommending the curbside pickup, but I do wonder, would there be some benefit to looking at the residential drop-off option as an incremental step to, I recognize that it doesn't provide the kind of convenience for people, but it does start to meet an immediate need. And also, I wonder if it would begin to provide some education and sort of shifting people's thinking around composting. Have you, in other jurisdictions, have you considered that, or have other jurisdictions done an incremental approach?
Maybe Alita could speak a little bit better to some other jurisdictions, but we do agree. Sometimes seeing movement on an action is really beneficial for kind of keeping the momentum going if there's an interest in the town. So I think we do mention in the report that, community composting programs, something like that could still be supported, even if the town does look to implement something like a curbside program longer term. So I don't think that, implementing a curbside program would preclude you from doing, maybe something that's a little less costly and operationally intensive right now to get residents on board. But yeah, maybe Alita could speak to maybe some other jurisdictions a little bit better.
Just wanted to build off of what you had said. So if the intent is that you want to get community buy-in and participation right away, it's something that is potentially a little less costly, then yes, one of those drop-off sites might be a way to do that. However, we've seen in most jurisdictions that when you're removing some of those barriers and collecting curbside, that's where you're going to get more participation. But if you were looking for something sooner, just because curbside collection takes a while to set up as well as to potentially procure vehicles for that, that maybe you would want to consider one of those, a remote site first before curbside.
Okay, Councillor Heenan.
Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. The only issue that I have about having a drop-off is once again, it goes back to Shamcook and Bayside. It brings the critters around. They had it in St. John, and it was a disaster because there were more raccoons, and they had to get rid of it because of the fact that they couldn't control the animal population. And so to me, it would have to be some sort of a sealed tight container because the juices all flow out and go all over and they attract everything. And as I say, St. John had to get rid of it, and it would be the same scenario as having bears knocking on your door. So it would have to be looked at what type of a container it would be. Thank you.
Yeah, Council, I guess my comment, and I'll keep it open for questions, is just before I get into the logistics of a collection process on this, is I actually question feasibility altogether, and it's coming from a cost perspective. If you look at the costs associated, and what I'm wondering is the best recommendation to proceed, or is it the best recommendation? And I know composting is very important, but I'm seeing not even considering the capital cost to get the project going with even carts, because bags, to your point, the bears will be everywhere, and you see what the crows are if you leave the lid off to get into bags, and we don't allow the curbside garbage containers within the town of St. Andrews, or the boxes rather that people build. The annual operating cost is about $190,000 a year. To put that in perspective, this entire arena probably costs around that for the taxpayer. So as much as it is important to figure this out, I think individually as a municipality, it's almost not financially possible based on this report. To me, what that does is it puts more emphasis on the Regional Service Commission, and I know they're figuring out things because recycling now is with circular materials, and we don't even 100% know what that looks like right now. But to me, I think a regional model is the only way that this would be feasible, because that vehicle or that driver can go through various communities and do it, and then you would have our local RSC bring that as part of their process versus hauling it all that kilometers to another RSC. As much as it's the right thing to do, there is a certain financial impact where you've got to question if it really does make sense to the community financially, but also even just running it that far back and forth. as much as I like the recommendation out of the options that there are, I just don't think that this recommendation is really something that's financially feasible for the municipality at this standpoint without somebody else coming on board and helping to pay for this. Councillor Blanchard.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation. I think it was an excellent presentation, and the report I thought was very thorough. I would agree with you to the extent that I think it needs to be a regional model. I think that needs to be the approach we take. What I would like to do is make an appeal to you as our representative at the Regional Service Commission, because there are a number of committees that that sit as part of the Regional Service Commission, responsible for a number of different areas. Waste management is one. I'm our representative, supposed to be our representative, sitting on that committee. They have not met since amalgamation, right? We have not had a single meeting. So I think there does need to be a push for things like this. This is, like I said, the report itself, I think, is solid, and what it proposes, I think, like you said, for our municipality, for St. Stephen, for others in the area, I think makes sense. I think regionally it makes sense, but I agree, individually, as one small municipality, as was mentioned, with the amount of volume that we would produce, we would need others to be on board to make this a feasible model, but there needs to be some pressure, there needs to be some momentum. You know, we've started this. I would like to be able to have conversations and see what St. Stephen and see what other municipalities in the area are thinking about, and I think the place to do that is at the Regional Service Commission. So I would ask that we put a little fire there to see if we can get that committee going and see what we can come up with.
I can do that for sure the next meeting. Just to let you know, in regards to the RSC, it's actually been an active conversation on some of the committees not meeting. And what they're doing right now is actually setting a calendar for the entire year, so people will know exactly when their committee meetings are. So that is actually, as of last meeting, an active conversation, because it hasn't brought up. There's actually 2 or 3 different committees that have not met since reform happened. So I think we're speaking the same language for sure. It makes a lot of sense to bring that before them, and I assume this is a public report at this point once we accept it, so there's no reason why you can't bring that so other municipalities can look at it as a best practice and realize that even alone theirs would look fairly similar to this, maybe a little different, but fairly similar, considering they would have to probably go to the same areas, have similar transportation and upfront capital costs. I think it could be a useful sales tool to everybody working together to try to figure out a solution.
Yeah, and like I said, and to your point there, yeah, absolutely, the push needs to be there. And I think like Hemlock Knoll being sort of our, the regional waste management facility, them adding this capacity, I think if there was the will from different municipalities, I think then there's some pressure and a reason to sort of go in that direction. So again, it makes it even more feasible if we're cutting the transportation, the costs in half essentially, right? Instead of trucking to Crane Mountain outside of St. John, we're here in the region. So I think there's more reason to do it if we're speaking with one voice. So
and I do think the biggest challenge we'll have to overcome is the fact that it's a cost, right? Like at the end of the day, I know that there is a social responsibility and benefits of that, but when you look at your annual budget, this will actually cause you to have to up rates, whatever the model, something has to pay for this. So I think that'll be something that they'll have to weigh out. And again, with circular materials, I think that's kind of a little bit of an internal distraction right now, figuring out what that looks like across the region. But you got to start talking about it now to have, in reality, no one's going to do that, and you've got to build a budget accordingly for this, right? So by all means.
Just one further point, like you said, it isn't just about waste management and diversion from landfill. It does also help us to achieve our net zero carbon neutrality kind of thing, because that waste, that organic waste in landfills decomposes and produces greenhouse gases, right? So the more we divert away, the fewer greenhouse gases, and we could sort of incorporate that into our overall assessment of what we've done to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So that's something to take into consideration as well.
Now, would that count? Was it in the baseline? Probably not, though, right? Could be a footnote at the end of the day. I'm not saying it's not something you want to accomplish, but it's about, doing the right thing. And although it might not have been in the baseline, it'd still be very relevant to how the municipality has done that. Is that a safe answer? It wasn't included. Is that safe to assume? No. Councillor Weir.
Just for the people that don't know, there was an environment facility here until 2021. Didn't operate for over 10 years. They were constructed mainly for the aquaculture industry, couldn't even get enough from the aquaculture industry to make it economically viable. So they sold it, and the facility was torn down, I think, in 2021. It was up at the Champlain Industrial Park and sit there vacant for years. And they tried very hard. I attended a lot of meetings with them to try to get the thing operational. They just couldn't.
I did not know that. Councillor Gubishal.
Thank you, Worship. I don't want to sound glib or anything, but seems with all fingers pointing at the Regional Service Commission, perhaps, and not to detract from pushing on the rope, but seems like the Regional Service Commission probably should have been doing this study for us and paying for it. So before we accept it, I'd be curious to know what it cost and perhaps sending them along the bill. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we got a grant to do this study, right? So it was from the provincial government's grant?
Through the Environmental Trust Fund. Yeah.
Oh, thank you,
but we should invoice them, and then we'd have more money from the provincial government.
It's a lot of effort to come up with a report saying we probably shouldn't be sending our garbage to or our compost to St. John, although I think we should be composting. It should be going within our RSC. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so there's no further questions. Thank you very much for the presentation. It did show the scope of what was asked, though, what it looks like for the town of St. Andrews, and it does give a pretty good background to bring a conversation to the region that individually, whether it be St. Andrews or a neighboring community, it probably doesn't make financial sense, but together there might be something here because a lot of these costs would be fairly consistent, whether it be for one community or more, right? So thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
Thank you.
All right, next presentation, we're going to go to, speaking of the Regional Service Commission, Charlene Hatt. She is here to talk about the 2024 Southwest Business Summit, not composting, which will take place in St. Andrews, June 26th to 28th. And this is just a follow-up to, we were talking about sponsorship request, and there was, an ask from the floor to get additional information. So thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So my name is Charlene Hatt. I'm the Director of Economic Development with the Regional Service Commission. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Planning Committee for the Business Summit. So just a bit of background on it. I'm trying to see which one I can see better. So back in December 2023, Eastern Charlotte Chamber of Commerce approached ourselves and Practical HR Solutions to talk about this potential event idea for this year, for 2024. The intent of it was to bring a large business event to the Southwest region for its regional business community. We kind of broadened it from there, and I'll talk about that in a second. So in January, we formed a committee or group to plan the event with the St. Stephen and St. Andrews Chambers of Commerce, Holly Johnson PR, Working MB, OMB, and CBDC. Again, as I said, it's the intent is to bring world-class learning and networking opportunities to the Southwest region business community, but also promote the region as a great place to come and do business and a great place to visit to the rest of New Brunswick and Atlantic Canada. So some of the details of the event, they're happening the last 3 business days of June, 26th, 27th, 28th. The agenda was formed with feedback from the regional business community through the chambers. This is an overview of the event. Day 1, it has breakfast and lunch keynotes, morning and afternoon workshops. There are 5 workshops for each time slot, so 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon. An evening networking event and trade show with live music and light fair. Day 2, the breakfast keynote, morning workshops. Again, there's 5 in the morning, afternoon excursions, an evening gala dinner with James Mellinger as the keynote. And day 3 is a closing brunch with celebrity chef Michael Smith as a keynote address and cooking demo. So the trade show itself goes from noon on day 1 until noon day 2, and it includes 30 B2B services, so business-to-business service providers. Sample of the workshop. So the intent is that there's something for everybody that attends, regardless of the type of business that you belong to or whether you work in government, nonprofit. There's something there for you, and whether it's on human resource management, leadership, immigration, accounting, digital marketing, productivity. There's an entrepreneur panel with representatives for accounting, insurance, law, and sales, as well as a funding panel from all of the public funding agencies such as BDC, ACOA, OMB, et cetera. So each of those 3 blocks, the morning and afternoon of day 1 and the morning of day 2, we'll have a workshop applicable to any size or type. That's the website address. We have the website up and running, and it's being amended kind of on the go as things change. So sponsorship opportunities, there are 4 tiers. The bronze is up to $3,000. For all the tiers, the company and organization name and logo is featured on print materials, social, the website, sign is displayed for whatever you're sponsoring or whether it's general. The other tiers, as you can see, they add tickets to the summit workshops and events. So silver is 2 tickets, gold 4, platinum 6. And overall benefits. So the summit will bring over 300 delegates, speakers, and service providers to St. Andrews for the 3-day event. It's estimated that more than 150 will stay at the Algonquin. Obviously, there's going to be huge spin-off activities that many of the municipal businesses will benefit from. The content will help strengthen and support municipal businesses. I say leaders and managers, but it's also frontline depending on what area they work in, whether that's HR or sales, marketing, et cetera. So it's the largest of its kind in New Brunswick for this year, and it's going to showcase St. Andrews, as I mentioned before, as a venue of choice for this type of event across the Maritimes. In terms of the speaker list of those 15 speakers and keynotes, I think there's about 15, 16. We have about half that are from the region itself. Another quarter are from other places within New Brunswick, and then the final quarter are from within Nova Scotia or PEI. So all Atlantic Canada and mostly within the region. And that is it. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Questions, Council?
Clear and concise.
Clear and concise. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's appreciated. All right, and the final presentation this evening is from our planner, Alexander Gopin. He's the senior planner, again, with the Regional Service Commission, just to keep that theme going. The public presentation on amendments MP 20-07 to the municipal plan, MP 20-01, and amendment Z 22-06 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PIDs 01323294 and 15097066. Which is Lynn and David Mayo, who are also with us this evening. So, Mr. Gopin, the floor is yours.
We've lost your vocals, Xander. Can you check your inputs?
Thing.
You're on.
Yeah. We did discover Paul picked up Mr. Knopper on a little numbering mix-up with the bylaw number. So technically, this is a public presentation. The public presentation is really just on the municipal plan amendment, which is MP 20-08. So that's a very minor numbering issue.
Just for clarity on that, Xander, sorry to interrupt, is there any concern about appeals or anything as a result of that being advertised that way, though? I don't want to belabor it. I just don't want it to be able to be challenged.
No, I'm not concerned about it because it's such a... The text, there's no difference in the text. It's just a numbering issue. And we've had these, it happens from time to time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so some background on the file. The two PIDs, 01323294 and 15097066, are both at 222 Prince of Wales. And combined, it's 2/3 of an acre lot in the serviced residential zone with a house and garage. There is a proposal to demolish that garage and replace it with, I think, a maximum 50 by 40 two-story building with a commercial use. And that commercial use would be 1,500 to 1,600 square feet of retail and studio space. This is for the We Fabric shop, and there's nothing about the business that is changing, so it's the same type of stuff that's happening on Water Street right now with fabric sales and sewing materials and machines, service and repair of those machines, workshops, classes, and some local handmade goods as well. If this property were rezoned to the mixed use zone under the central commercial stream, it would accommodate the project. That does require a municipal plan amendment and rezoning because under the municipal plan, it's residential use. So this is the zoning of the property currently, and I couldn't get the map to highlight both PIDs, but it's the two yellow ones here combined. And it is surrounded by tourist commercial uses, the Kingsbury Arms, and then you've got Kingsbury Gardens up here and institutional uses to the south. There are some residential neighbors kind of across the driveway here. Just a little bit more info on the property, owned by David and Lynn Mayo. Some photos from the site. And this is a site plan that was provided by the applicant. So this is kind of what they would propose to do. And we made sure that there would be sufficient space on the lot for parking, both for the residential use that would remain there and for the new commercial use. So it would meet the zoning bylaw requirements in the mixed use zone for that use. And it would meet all the setbacks and everything like that. So it's really just the land use issue that we're dealing with. And this is an example that was provided by the applicant of the type of structure that they are thinking about. So it might have garage doors, but it would be, I think, all studio space and retail. One other thing that I think they would do their best to match it to the existing house and that type of. I think they would actually say they were going to reside their house to match that. So probably getting a little bit used to these now, these statements of public interest. Sort of the provincial overarching goals around land use development. One of them is promoting and prioritizing development in areas of communities with existing or planned public infrastructure and services. And this location has those services. It's promoting development in downtowns and urban cores through increased density infill and brownfield development. And I mean, this is kind of a 6 one way, half dozen the other way, because you'd have a business that's leaving kind of a more dense commercial area and moving to a still what is an urban neighborhood with a mix of commercial and residential and institutional uses surrounding it. And then assumably another business would come in and fill in that the right downtown spot. Looking at the municipal plan, there are some economic policies that are relevant. Supporting an economic climate conducive to investment and growth of year-round employment opportunities while protecting and enhancing the quality of life in St. Andrews. So this is a year-round business that caters to locals and tourists. And this would allow them to continue operating and potentially expand a little bit. Another economic policy talks about St. Andrews being a center for arts and culture specifically and relating to this application. And this is a business where people can come and learn about fabric arts and can learn how to use a sewing machine, all sorts of things like that. So very much cultural engagement. And council shall work to improve the business community in the town by encouraging new commercial, retail, and service businesses to locate in the central commercial area where most shops and services are found. So again, this is kind of a, is it bad for the business community to take a business out of that location? And so it is being moved out of that location, but there are numerous challenges that the owners have experienced in that location, and they feel like it is not the best location for their particular type of business. They're surrounded more by food businesses and kind of more storefront retail, whereas they're more of a destination for a lot of people. And it is still very walkable. folks who are, if you're at the Algonquin or staying anywhere in the town plat, it would certainly be walkable. And in a place like St. Andrews, where you have a lot of people looking to start businesses, creating a new space in the sort of that prime market square downtown is not a bad thing. It's hard to imagine that space would sit vacant for long. So as I mentioned before, while this is currently a residential zone, it's the block it's on is entirely commercial, and there's commercial and institutional uses surrounding it. We did explore whether this could meet the requirements of a home-based business, which is something you can do in the service residential zone. And one of the requirements is that it doesn't generate offsite electrical interference, dust, noise, or smoke, and it would not do any of those things. But there are space and staff restrictions, certain percentages of the floor area, and a number of staff who are not residents, and they wouldn't meet that, and there would be a number of other variances. So this really seemed like the best route to go. One kind of benefit of having an established business is what they're doing, and there's probably not going to be a lot of surprises moving forward. And as I said before, they're in a situation where their type of business maybe isn't the best to be co-located around more tourist-focused businesses, and they want to be in a little bit more of a destination for folks. And there are, as everyone knows, there are plenty of parking issues in the downtown area. And if you have folks with sewing machines, those things are pretty heavy. So this would allow a business where people may actually be bringing large objects to it to use for a workshop. It would allow them parking that would be only for them and not competing with other businesses. And very much part of the town's artistic and cultural offerings, as I said before. So that's MP 2008. That's to deal with the municipal plan. There is a rezoning bylaw as well that would go with it, but there's no text amendments or anything else like that. So we have done some of these before where you have a municipal plan to change the designation from commercial to residential or residential to commercial, and then the rezoning can follow that. And with any rezoning, you can set conditions. Probably a development agreement wouldn't be necessary for this, especially where you're not dealing with any new services or anything like that. But there may be some conditions that council wants to consider. That's it for me for now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gopin. I think it's important to note that there is already a business that is related, not the same business by any means, that does kind of alterations, sewing and things, that is on Queen Street. So it's already kind of not in our downtown core. So there is already that existing. Question for you, Mr. Gopin, on that, a question I received, but I said I would ask it tonight versus my interpretation, is what would the signing be for a business like this in this zoning?
Well, there are specific sign requirements for businesses in the mixed-use zone. But what I would say, I can dig them up. But if council has concerns over signage and wants to make sure that it is maybe more in line with the home-based business type of signage, that's a condition that you can set through the rezoning.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? Mr. Councilor Gomichel.
Thank you, Worship. A bit surprised we didn't have any more feedback given the last time we did a service residential rezoning. While I was on council, we had a lot of feedback. We moved it was a hairdressing shop into a residential zone, and there was lots of discussion around that. My question is with regard to conditions, if the business doesn't work out, and I certainly hope it does, but if it doesn't work out in the future, can we set conditions that it can't, for example, become a gas station, or it can't, for example, become a convenience store or any other sort of business that's not necessarily conducive with being across the street from a school, two schools, and very close to a very congested intersection on a street, I would add, that it is has been designated by our transportation master plan as a collector street and needs to be upgraded, and there's sidewalks and things to be considered. So there's some things to be considered. I don't think it's just a check and go. I think there's some questions we need to ask, especially with regard to setting conditions for the future in terms of what that business might become if it doesn't work out or people decide to move, those sorts of things. Thank you, Your Worship.
Mr. Open?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question around what could happen in the future. And one of the reasons why the mixed use zone made more sense than just going to central commercial zone, if somebody else buys it, they just want to do something residential, that won't be an issue in the mixed use zone. Now, in that zone, if you're changing from one use to any other use that is not in the serviced residential zone, so basically if you're doing anything that is not less than a 3-unit dwelling, then you have to go to PAC for terms and conditions. So that's one way that's sort of built into the bylaw. Now it's possible that there may be changes to the bylaw. That section might be slightly different. The way that the zoning works could be a little bit different at that time. So council setting a condition around that does make a lot of sense. And it was actually something that happened for the vet clinic at 108 Sophia. That was kind of a similar situation where you had a residential property, although it was used for the doctor's office at the time. And one of the conditions of the rezoning was that if there was a change to a use that was not a vet clinic, it would have to be similar to or compatible. I can't remember if that was in the eyes of council or the development officer, but there was that extra little clause there to make sure that, you're absolutely right. Even something like a restaurant there might not be appropriate for what's a pretty quiet retail operation. So definitely want to put some guardrails on that.
Thank you, Mr. Gobin. Oh, can I have a follow-up question?
Is that something we could do this evening, or would we have to table it and bring it back the next meeting?
Be a last step, right, Mr. Gopin? Was that?
Yeah, conditions are done basically right at third reading of the zoning bylaw. I mean, definitely we should start thinking about them. And when we come back for the zoning, the public hearing, and things like that, we'll probably have some drafted. It's good to get a sense tonight of what council is thinking about. So taking notes and but we're very much on process.
Thank you, Xander.
Mr. Knopper, then we'll go to Councillor Bennett.
Yeah, through your worship, just a note on process. So tonight is the public presentation. On the agenda for discussion for council tonight is calling the public hearing of objections and getting views of the PAC. So those would have to come first before council goes to first reading, if you choose to do so. Within that, that's why you haven't heard anything from the public. We have actually received one letter, but was holding it for the public hearing of objections. But you would hear more, you may hear more once that comes out as a meeting set by council. At your discretion.
Perfect. And my understanding is that's a letter of support. Yeah.
That's correct.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Gumashall, for pointing out the points that you made there. You did bring up a valid point, though, about the road and the traffic pattern and the need for a sidewalk up there. The applicant's application, Mr. Gopin, it's got sufficient setback in the parking lot and the building itself. It wouldn't interfere with any traffic or any future development of the road or curbs or sidewalks being installed, would it?
No, there's no concerns with that. And before any building permit or anything like that would be issued, we always get a review by Public Works to make sure that there isn't going to be something like that. But if they're meeting setbacks for everything, then that shouldn't be an issue.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, there's actually, the pictures are up there briefly, but there's actually quite a bit of greenery in front, some hedges that actually have it pretty, I don't think you'd even notice it was there unless they have a sign by the road, to be honest with you. It's a nice shaded property. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Gopin. Appreciate, I guess you could say, the first step of the process, and appreciate you being here. We're going to just get through the minutes and staff report, but we'll bump it up first for introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws. So, 3 presentations, Council. Thank you for bearing with us. We are getting into the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. So I'll quickly go through these. The first are the minutes of the 240304 special meeting of council on Monday, March 4th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Could I have a mover to adopt those minutes? I've got Councillor Heenan and seconded by Councillor Hurdle. Any changes on those minutes? Okay, call the question. All in favor of approving, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. They're carried. The next is the minutes of the 24:03:04 regular council meeting on Monday, March 4th, 2024. This one was 7 p.m. Once again, a mover. I've got Councillor Harland and seconded by Councillor Bennett. Any changes to these minutes? Call the question. All in favor of adopting, please signify by saying aye. Those have been adopted. And the last one is the minutes of the 24:03:18 regular council meeting on Monday, March 18th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Could I have a mover? I've got Councillor Blanchard and seconded by Councillor Hurdle. And once again, any changes? Okay. Any opposed to this motion? Try to mix it up on you to red light, green light. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, that has been carried. We are going to move right into communications and the staff reports. Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, I hope everyone had a restful Easter weekend that allows you to re-energize and prepare for the spring. On behalf of staff, thank you for the opportunity to update you on and the public on the initiatives of the town of St. Andrews. For Council, before you tonight is a motion to accept a tender to allow for the next phase of the Van Horn Trail to proceed this year. The budget allowed was $1.1 million based on the original financing of 80% from Infrastructure Canada. The successful proponent came in much lower at $722,000, including taxes. We are proposing to see if the successful bidder will match the same unit costs to expand the project to additional components the Trail Committee has identified as a priority. Another proposal before Council is the replacement of one of the strainers of the water treatment plant in Shamcook. The units are used to filter particulates out of the water as part of the filtration process. One of the units malfunctioned in the fall and needs to be replaced. The estimated cost was $175,000, but the installed price came in at $250,000, so $75,000 over budget. We have reserve funds set aside for instances just like this, so if Council wishes, we are still able to proceed. As previously mentioned, Council appointed a Heritage Committee in the fall to review the possibility of implementing a Heritage bylaw. The initial draft has been given to Council for consideration. Council will do a deeper review over the next few weeks, and if they want to move ahead, we'll begin the process with extensive community consultation before going to the first reading. Before Council is a compost study that evaluates various options and estimated costs to put a curbside program in place. The benefit of a curbside program is that it encourages a much higher level of participation, but it does come with a significant cost. Realistically, either a regional approach or in partnership with other municipalities makes more sense. Before you tonight also is consideration for a text amendment to the zoning bylaw, which are suggested because of the following. The Department of Public Safety in New Brunswick has seemed to change its policy on temporary liquor licenses. In St. Andrews, only certain commercial zones allow for permanent licenses, which now excludes events and non-commercial zones from getting a special event liquor license. The amendment will correct that. Council approved an LED display sign for the arena to allow for event advertising again. The amendment is specific to community events unless changed by Council. Under administration, last month we experienced a significant water leak in the Prince of Wales Street area that stopped water to the Algonquin and multiple blocks of residents on March 12th. I wish to thank you for your patience during the loss of service and ensuing boil odor. I also wish to thank QM Construction, who came down to help us out in short order to address this before it got worse. Council approved Dillon Consulting to do an energy study, which is funded by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for 5 buildings last month. However, the price was less than half the allotted budget. I am pleased to say another 5 buildings have been added that represent close to 90% of our total energy consumption. We are still continuing to work on an RFP for a recreation master plan that we hope to issue in mid-April. Once a consultant is approved by council, there will be broad community input to help us identify existing assets, including programs and any perceived shortcomings. We continue to get developers coming in to review services and ask questions on new developments. We're always happy to assist, but it can eat up significant hours as Public Works, Planning, and senior staff all provide input and guidance on different components of larger builds. Our search for seasonal workers continues as we have 2 posted positions related to the Visitor Information Center. Please look for it online or call Town Hall for more information. The BIA, I will say, it hasn't been posted online yet. It'll be first thing tomorrow morning, so if you rush to your computer tonight, you won't see it. The BIA is hoping to host a solar eclipse party for the wharf on April the 8th from 3 to 6. This should be a great opportunity to not only view it, but to reacquaint ourselves with what a sunny day is in southern New Brunswick. I also wish to thank By the Sea gardeners who will be replenishing Anne's Garden, as well as the Cenotaph in Market Square over the next couple of months. The town supports them through a small donation for the purchase of flowers, soil, etc. Staff, with spring approaching, the fire chief would like to remind everyone from Clark Road to the point, no burning is permitted except within CSA-approved apparatus. This includes no grass fires. For Bayside and Shamcook, you need to call the DNR burning number to be certain it is allowed on that day. We all remember the forest fire last year, and despite going through torrential rains this past weekend, we had a low precipitation winter and the woods can dry up fast. And I could say they had a grass fire earlier today already. I couldn't believe it. The Recreation Department has been actively working on summer camps for the summer. These will be day-long programs based out of the arena. Unlike previous years at the Youth Center, there will be a cost associated with this initiative, but it will go all day and include additional activities within the arena and out in the community. Speaking of SIAC, the supervisor notes in a report that over the March break, a few of the youth age guests came over to participate in activities as well. And that should be the youth age guests from the Algonquin. Public Works has also been into the facility to upgrade the kitchen as we work towards using the space in the morning when members are in school, and that would be for a seniors initiative. Public Works was busy with storm cleanup and preparation for the next storm. As of the writing of this report, they are forecasting 80 to 90 millimeters over the weekend. Hopefully it was spread over 3 days and it did not lead to widespread flooding. I think it ended up being more, to truth be told, but nonetheless, within town, everything seemed to hold well this time. With the Alpine Bonspiel concluding the Heather Curling Club season, the ice will be removed for the season. We are already getting inquiries for pickleball and roller hockey, so we appreciate the recreation manager's effort to utilize this facility more frequently and offer a variety of events. With regards, Chris Spear, Treasurer, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Anything financially you want to highlight before we open up for questions?
With only 2 months in, Your Worship, there's really nothing much left to highlight. I will say the auditors should be down probably either the end of this month or the first couple of weeks in May to go over the 2023 annual audit. I think we've concluded our portion of it. Now they just have to finish it up at their end.
And snow removal budget must look pretty good.
So far, but if we're getting a lot this weekend. But, although I will say the hours are looking fantastic. But the salt budget, we've had a lot of freezing rain, enough precipitation, so a small storm uses up as much salt as a large storm, unfortunately. So that's, that budget is, I guess, right on budget, which is a good thing, but we haven't saved much in that particular portion of the costs.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Any questions on the staff report? Councilor Harlan.
I just have a comment, not a question. I'm just always struck when I read the staff reports at the work that our relatively small staff do in the run of a month, and I really appreciate the staff and the work that they do. I would also like to give a shout out to Mervyn Hanselpacker, our recreation manager at this point. He's been on the job
close to a year, a little over a year. Yeah.
And he's making great strides, I think, in terms of creating opportunities to engage all residents in activities, and it's just wonderful to see. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other
pass it along.
questions? Councillor Heenan?
Yes, Your Worship. I just have a problem. We continue to get developers coming in to review services and ask questions on new development, and it takes up significant hours of public work. Is there possibly a way to streamline this to have a certain time each week that could be allotted to this rather than someone just coming in off the street and expecting to go and look at different development areas, et cetera, and taking up this extra time?
So, through your worship, people don't typically just show up, Counselor. They will make appointments and stuff. It's just the process. And again, it's just for fairly big developments when they look at services. So it's part of the process, part of being a municipality, especially one that's hungry for new dwelling units like we are. But I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that that's a big part of our job right now, and would be for a lot of planners and similar staff right across the country, I'm sure.
Certainly.
It's a good problem to have.
I was going to say, it's certainly better than being a community that has no developers looking at it. Yeah, and I just wanted to actually echo Councillor Harlan's point, just with the ice plant being shut down. This building and the size of it and what happens in it, the fact that we have only 2 employees, John McFarland and Bill Dowling, the fact that they're able to run this entire building the way that they do, I think it was only closed a couple days due to the amount of dedication it takes and the moving parts. And I actually didn't hear a single complaint this year. It speaks volumes to the work that they do. And a lot of buildings of this size and other municipalities actually probably have 5, 6 employees. So it really is impressive. And just to piggyback off your comments, Mervyn Hanselpacker joining the team, and this is probably the most utilized I've seen this building since, well, probably even more than when I was a child. But, between the new activities, whether it be the youth with sticks or the glow skates or, all of the activity around it, the fact the canteen's up and running again, it was a vibrant building, and it was an economic driver for the community for a lot of weekends, in particular this winter. So I just wanted to acknowledge those staff members as they transition to Public Works, which they all look forward to. They love the kind of going back and forth, but to manage a building of this size with all the it really is impressive. So they certainly need recognition, to your point. Okay, so motion to accept the staff reports. I've got Councillor Heenan, and I saw a hand over here. Is it Councillor Hurdle? Okay, all in favor of accepting the staff reports, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. The staff reports have been accepted. All right, we are moving to the introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws and motions. We are going to jump way ahead to number 5, which is planning and community development. Councillor Harland and Heenan. I'll scurry ahead to 135 to find out which councillor has the first one. Is it? All right, so it'll be Councillor Harland.
Councillor Harland, just to note, it's MP 2008, not 07. Just when you're reading.
Municipal Plan MP 208. Thank you.
Just to test you on the fly.
Yeah, thank you.
Got it.
It's in the background as well, and in the motion.
Oh, good. Okay. So this is reference number PCD 240302. And the background is as follows. The town of St. Andrews has received an application from Lynn and David Mayo at 222 Prince of Wales Street, PIDs 013239294 and 15097066, seeking a rezoning to the mixed-use zone to facilitate the development of a commercial building. The applicant wishes to demolish the existing garage and replace it with a 50 by 40 two-story building. The new building would house the Wee Fabric Shop, as the current location is no longer suitable for their needs. Please see the attached staff report and copies of the amendment MP 20-07 8 and Z 22-06. Amendment bylaw process to date includes public presentation Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, obtain views of the PAC, public hearing of objections, first reading, second reading, third reading, and third and final reading. As per the planning process, the next steps are to obtain views of the Planning Advisory Committee and call a public hearing of objections before moving to readings of the amendment. So the first motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sets the date of Monday, May 6th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. for a public hearing of objection to Amendment MP 20-08 to the Town of St. Andrews Municipal Plan MP 20-01, and for amendments Z 22-06 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PIDs 01323294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo, as per the Community Planning Act, Section 111. And I so move.
Thank you. That was quite a test for you.
I know.
I felt bad for you. Seconder for that one, I've got Councillor Bennett. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. That date has been set. The next one?
So the next motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews obtains views of the Planning Advisory Committee to Amendment MP 20-08 to the Town of St. Andrews Municipal Plan MP 20-01, and for Amendment Z 22-06 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 for PIDs 01323294 and 15097066 for 222 Prince of Wales Street for Lynn and David Mayo, as per the Community Planning Act, Section 110. And I so move.
And seconded by Deputy Mayor Akaji. Discussion on this one? All in favor of sending this to the PAC, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous and carried. All right, so we are on to page 154, which this one says choose a counselor. Wow. Well, I really only have 2 counselors and 1 red one, so I guess Councillor Heenan, it's you.
Thank you, Worship and Council. Reference number PCD 240401, text amendment number 22 dash, does that change? No, 22-07 to the Town of St. Andrews zoning bylaw, Z 22-01. At the March 18, 2024 regular council meeting, staff brought forward 2 text amendments to the zoning bylaw. The amendments are around the issues of special occasion permits under the Department of Public Safety and how this relates to zoning, and for the LED sign for the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex. Please see attached background documents for more details. Amendment bylaw process, public hearing of objections, obtain views of the PAC, first reading, second reading, third and final reading. As part of the planning process, council needs to set up a time for a public hearing of objections and obtain views of the Public Planning Advisory Committee before going to readings. And the first action is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sets the date of Monday, May 6, 2024 at 6:45 p.m. for a public hearing of objections to text amendment Z 22-07 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 as per the Community Planning Act, Section 111. I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Neal. Discussion on this one? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's everybody, so that will have a public hearing of objections on May 6th. The next one?
Thank you, Worship and Council. That the Council of the Town of St. Andrews obtains views of the Planning and Advisory Committee to amend text amendment Z 22-02 to the zoning bylaw Z 22-01 as per the Community Planning Act, Section 110. I so move.
And a seconder, once again, we got Councillor Harlan winning that one. Discussion? Okay, please support this motion by signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That is carried. All right, I don't think Mr. Gopin has to stay on for the discussion on garbage removal. Is that safe to say? Unless Mr. Gopin would really like to stay on for entire evening again tonight. I know he has a lot of meetings, but you're welcome to hang out with us.
Catch up on Facebook tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, and a rare night. It happens once in a while where there's nothing under finance and administration. So we are going to jump ahead to page 50, which is Public Works and Public Safety Committee. And almost there. This one is Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Your Worship. The reference number is PWPS
240406, and the subject is water treatment plant strainer. Background reads, within the water treatment plant, 2 large strainer units remove large particulates out of the water. Last fall, one of the units developed a crack that water was spraying through and was unable to be repaired. Consequently, it is now offline. The cost to replace the identical unit was over $300,000 before installation. So through CBCL, staff issued an RFQ to look at the other available options. We had 5 proponents with quotes from $96,000 to $547,000 with installation on top. We went with Cahill Technical, who had one of the lower unit costs and was able to deliver it within a reasonable time. They then came to our facility in late fall to review what we had and produce a plan for installation. After several months of waiting on them, the all-in costs are $247,645.98 plus HST, which is substantially above our budget of $175,000. At the beginning of 2024, our opening utility capital reserve fund balance was $310,000. It is staff's recommendation to draw down on that for the overage. So the motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews awards RFQ 232881 self-cleaning water strainer to Cahill Technologies for $247,645.98 plus HST for the supply and installation of 2 Techlean ABW12-LP automatic filters. And I so move, Your Worship.
Bet you when you're growing up, you never thought you'd be talking about those, eh?
Probably more than you think, yeah.
Okay, can we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Blanchard. And open up discussion. Obviously, if the other unit is to go down, it would put the entire community on a boil order for quite a long time. So it's been a best practice just for the public's knowledge for this particular item to have a backup. So right now we do not have a backup. So the motion is to actually have a backup, so that way we avoid such a lengthy boil order should what happened to this one happen to the other one. But there is a staff report. Councillor Hurdle, over to you.
Thank you, Worship. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Spear, but it seems like Cahill might have dropped the ball a little bit. We're waiting for them to come back to us for a few months, over which time prices obviously went up. Obviously, we don't want to consider putting anyone at risk for their drinking water, but what would the timeline be of putting this back to a request for proposal or request for quote and going through the process again?
Well, we'd probably run into a similar problem, but it would be if we asked the CBCL to go through it again, probably take them 6 weeks to prepare the tender. And depending which way we go, this was basically like a design and build type of tender, meaning, say for most street projects, CBCL comes in and says so much pipe cut from here to here. In this case, we said, tell us the technology you have, what'll it do with all these specs, related to the water supply. Then we said, come into the plant and tell us how much it's going to cost to put it in. We had CBCL review the engineering or the installation cost, and they felt it was reasonable that, without putting in an exact unit there's going to be a lot of work. Part of the problem is the piping is so expensive that it's $80,000 just in piping to reroute it around. The unit that would replace that's $350,000. So if we, the equivalent of a drop and play, if you will. But that was a year out to have that delivered. These particular units can be delivered in 12 weeks. Then 4 to 5 weeks after that, they'll come down for installation. So it's, probably delay it by 4 or 5 months, and I don't know if we get any type of better results, because if nothing else, the unit cost would have gone up for all the other technologies, right? So it's just based on, our only concern was on the installation costs, and they thought it was reasonable. They were surprised, but they went through all their things, and they gave staff a long breakdown of what the incremental cost of why the installation was so much. And part of it too is they're coming over here, the installers from Newfoundland, Cahill, and so they got to send 2 people over here for over a week to rebuild our water plant. So essentially, in this one section of it, so it adds up very fast. But anybody else would be in the same situation. So I guess, I don't know what benefit it would be. You might see it, but we could have them, CBCL, come up with the actual design, and then somebody local might be able to say, well, we'll buy the units from TechLean and bring them in. The Cahill is like the local representative of TechLean, and then somebody else might do it, but again, you just don't know. It's a bit of a cat and mouse game, and I don't think it'd be significant. It might be thousands of dollars or tens of thousands, but with the price of gas, the price of the carbon tax that recently came in, and inflation and stuff, since we originally asked for these prices, things could also go up, is my concern.
Thank you. Fair question. Any other counselors? Okay, I'll call the question.
Your Worship, I just wanted to correct something you said. So this is more than just a backup unit, though. These two units are used intermittently, too. Meaning,
True.
so they can clean and stuff. So it's absolutely there for redundancy, but it is also used to manage the plant.
Yeah.
So, it's not, it's not just, it's redundant for a reason, but it's also to maintain them.
But we had two, we're down to one. If the other one goes, we're on a boil order for quite a...
Well, probably a year, yeah.
Yeah. So you can see the risk, right? Councillor Neal.
So just on that then, are we adding 2 new units? So we'll have 3 in total?
So part of the thing is these units, so the big one you saw looked like a washer tub, essentially the one we have now, a supersized one. I think it's like 6 or 8 feet high. And these things are kind of box shaped. And so to be able to handle the level of flow and the specific particulates in Chamcook Lake, we had to have 2 units. So chances are in a few years we'll have to replace the other one because both units are the same age. So we'll have 4 of these particular type of filters to replace the 2 that are currently there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, then I'll ask a question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. That has been carried. We will be using our reserves. Okay, so we're moving on to economic development, business, and culture. This would be Councillor Ware on page 60.
Reference number EBC 240301, March 27, 2024. Request for support 2024 Business Summit, June 26, June 28, 2024 in St. Andrews. Town of St. Andrews has received requests from the Organization Committee of the Southwest Business Summit 2024 to be hosted at the Algonquin Hotel, June 26th to 28th, 2024. Council requested a presentation from the Southwest Business Summit Committee to gain additional information before deciding on the sponsorship. Charlene Hatt, SNBSC, provided a presentation at the April 2nd, 2024 regular council meeting. Council was debating between 500 or 1,500 sponsorship for this event as part of the March 18th, 2024 regular council meeting discussion. So I'm prepared to make a motion as soon as council decides.
Okay, we can do it that way. We can just discuss them out and then we'll reread the motion versus amended if that's okay through the clerk. Okay, council, so I guess based on last time we talked about that, $500 is a nutrition break, $1,500 is a bronze sponsor. So the question is, at what level, if any, would you like to proceed? Council, is there any comments you'd like to make on this one?
I'll make a comment. I was one of the ones that questioned it starting out. But if they get 325 people coming to town, regardless of the value of the summit, the value of that many people coming to town for 3 days, I would think would be worth a bronze sponsorship.
Thank you. Councillor Heenan.
I agree with Councillor Weir. At the beginning, when we first discussed this, I wasn't aware of the amount of population coming at 325, so I would support also the bronze sponsorship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Blanchard.
Yeah, just I agree, and like given the presentation and almost being described as a showcase for St. Andrews to really Atlantic Canada as a destination for these types of events, I think the sponsorship from the town at the bronze level would be adequate, and it would make a lot of sense to me. Again, as we're showing our support for this event.
What I'm hearing based on comments, I'll go to you, Councillor Bennett, is this funds would come from the tourism accommodation levy as it's bringing people into our community. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship, and that's exactly what I was going to ask.
I knew it.
No, it's just for the public's benefit, I guess. This does look like a wonderful event that's going to happen here, showcasing the beautiful area that we live in. However, I was kind of worried that we would use citizens' tax dollars to pay for a lot of these events, but using the TAO money is certainly, I think, a wise choice here. Makes us respectful to the tax dollars that we're supposed to be administering. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other member of council? Okay, it sounds like Deputy Mayor. Did you? No. Okay. Sounds like Councillor Ware. You can reread the motion with the $1,500 is what I'm hearing.
Yep. Thank you, Council, for that discussion. The motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews supports the 2024 Southwest Business Summit with a sponsorship of $1,500. I so move.
Thank you very much. And it's seconded by Councillor Bennett. We kind of had discussion, but let's just open it up for formality. Okay, all in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That has been carried. Bronze sponsors. I will say that if you do the math on that, it almost replenishes the fund itself anyway. So if they're as successful as they hope to be. Okay, we are moving along to Recreation and Environment Committee. Councillor Gumichel and Blanchard, and we will start off with Councillor Gumichel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Reference number RE 240404, submitted by myself, March 28th, 2024, and the subject is the tender 2023-07 for the Van Horn Trail Extension Award for the town of St. Andrews. And the background reads, in the 2024 capital budget, council allowed $1.1 million for trails, of which $733,000 was being provided from a partnership between Infrastructure Canada and the province of New Brunswick. The extension includes a trail from Harry Mallory Sports Field to the Bar Road and along Water Street from Patrick Street to the Van Horn Trail across from Langmaid Park. On March 22, 2024, tender TSA 2023-07 trail extension closed with 6 proponents submitting the following HST included bids. Firstly, Fundy Contracting for $722,129. Secondly, K-Line Construction, $747,319. Thirdly, L. Sanford and Sons Limited at $768,124. Fourthly, Fairville Construction, $780,585. Fifthly, Coastal Enterprises at $814,377. And finally, MIDI Construction at $956,529. After the HST rebate, the total cost of the lowest bid is approximately $658,000. It is the consultant's and staff's recommendation to accept the lowest bid. And therefore, the motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews awards tender TSA 2023-07 Van Horn Trail Extension to Fundy Contractors Limited in the amount of $722,129.16, HST inclusive, and I would make that motion, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Gumichel. Seconder for this one, I've got Councillor Blanchard. We're in the final year of those funds, is that correct? Or 2 years, or it's getting close, isn't it? 2 years left? Okay. That we are able to secure through partnerships through other levels of government. Okay, Council, over to you. Questions, comments? Been a long time since I've seen a bid come in under the estimated engineer costs, which hopefully is a sign of better days to come, especially the wharf one coming up. Councillor Ware.
Well, that was what I wanted to make a comment on was, firstly, I'm surprised at the number of companies that bid it, and I'm surprised at the cost. So perhaps we have a summer ahead of us where we will have some pleasant surprises in some of the construction contracts.
It is. The other thing is just remember the time of year we went out for this one. Maybe that's more favorable as well, getting so many people bidding on it, plus making it more competitive, right? Any other questions, comments? Okay, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Everybody carried. Okay, so we're moving ahead to 65, and that one is going to be Councillor Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Worship. So reference number RE 240403. Subject is the Environmental Trust Fund Organic Compost Study from Dillon Consulting. The background is the town of St. Andrews received an Environmental Trust Fund grant for 2023-2024 to complete an organic compost study for the community. Dillon Consulting was awarded the RFP in January of 2024. Staff, the Environmental Advisory Committee, and Dillon Consulting have worked through the process of the development of the compost study. Please see the attached report for details. Dillon Consulting presented to Council on April the 2nd, 2024. For an overview of the report, the Environmental Advisory Committee discussed the report at the March 2024 meeting and was very happy with the study completed. It is recommended that Council accept the organic compost study from Dillon Consulting. And the motion for Council is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews accepts the organic compost study from Dillon Consulting as part of the Environmental Trust Fund 2023-2024. And I so move.
And the seconder for Councillor Blanchard would be Councillor Harland. Discussion. I know we just had a presentation on it with lots of questions. Okay, all in favor of accepting this this report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's no one. That is carried. Now we're going back to Councillor Gumichel.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The next one is on page 123, reference number RE 240405, submitted by myself, March 28, 2024, and the subject is St. Andrews Business Improvement Association Solar Eclipse Event, April 8th, 2024. And the background reads, with the upcoming solar eclipse to occur on April 8th, 2024, the St. Andrews Business Improvement Area is seeking to host a viewing event from 3:30 p.m. till 5:30 p.m. that day. They are currently selling solar eclipse glasses for this event, which will be a 95% eclipse for our area, and for March 29th, 2025, with a solar eclipse of 85%. The BIA is seeking town approval to shut down the Market Wharf for April 8th, 2024 from 3 to 6 p.m. to allow for the community to view the eclipse from this area. And the motion reads, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves the closing of Market Wharf on Tuesday, April 8th, 2024 from 3 to 6 p.m. to support the St. Andrews Business Improvement Area's solar eclipse viewing event. And I would make that motion, Your Worship.
Second.
Oh, wait, sorry. Can you just change it to Monday? It's supposed to be Monday.
Monday?
April 8th. Thank you.
So the date's right?
I skipped over that anyway.
Okay.
Monday, next Monday.
Friendly amendment.
Yeah.
Seconder? I think Councillor Heenan beat you there, Councillor Hurdle. Yeah, Councillor Heenan. Were you? Okay. Yeah, Councillor Heenan's got that one. Discussion on this one?
Your Worship, I actually just found it. So for March 29th, 2025, I've been informed that actually there's an astrology group or one that's for this area that's based out of St. John. They're actually planning to come down because the March 29th one is actually at sunrise. So they're actually going to have a 2-day event that they're building here in St. Andrews, and then they want to actually showcase the March 29th one next year as a sunrise event. So they're building on it.
Perfect.
Thank you. Not astrology, astronomy. Appreciate it.
All right. Anything else on that one? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. And just a reminder to the public that you can purchase glasses at the Red Herring, I think I saw online. I think it's $5 a pair, 3 for $10. Nailed it. Anyway, hopefully Kevin gives me a free chicken finger for that plug. All right. Next motion, keeping me on my toes, we're going back to Councillor Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Reference number RE 240406. Subject is the Ocean Global Canada Summit 2024 sponsorship request. Background is the town of St. Andrews has received a request from Ocean Global Canada Summit 2024 for sponsorship of their event in St. Andrews, May 21st to the 24th of 2024. Please see the attached document for additional information. This information was provided to the Environmental Advisory Committee in 2023 when they first approached the town about hosting the event in St. Andrews. Staff are following up with the Environmental Advisory Committee on supporting the sponsorship through their budgeted funds for 2024. The EAC noted the importance of this event being hosted in St. Andrews, as we are a marine science and economic hub. There is currently $5,000 available, and that's in the EAC Environmental Advisory Committee budget. So the motion that is before council, again, are we going to do it? How would we prefer to do it?
I think you should plug in the 2,000 because that was their recommendation, and then council can discuss
absolutely. So that the town of the council of the town of St. Andrews and the Environmental Advisory Committee supports the Ocean Global Canada Atlantic Blue Economy Summit, May 21st to the 24th, 2024, in St. Andrews with a sponsorship of $2,000, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard. Seconder for that motion. I've got Councillor Heenan. Discussion. Again, that number was selected as the EAC met, and out of their $5,000 that was allocated as part of our annual budget process, so money we allocated to them. They thought they're pretty excited over the event being here in St. Andrews, and they thought it was very something that we should really get behind and sponsor. And I know that the organizers have reached out several times to Town Hall. We've had a few different meetings with them. Yeah, if there any questions or comments on this one? Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Worship. It is very soon. It's within a month and a half away. Do we have a sense of attendees at this point, or any idea of the size of the event?
100 plus.
100 plus.
Yeah, is what I'm told.
Through your worship, additionally, a lot of the attendees will actually be international, so they're coming from other countries that are coming here to St. Andrews. And one of the discussions was, if this is successful here, they would like to reoccur the event on an annual or bi-yearly basis to have this event here as it is recognized as a marine environment and a marine economy.
I am a face on the speakers page. It's no wonder it's garnering international. There's a few other notables that know what they're talking about.
Well, that might change my vote just on that one.
And not to bring it into this, but as well, there is an invitation to council to attend whatever you'd like as well. They'd love to have your presence at different sessions and things like that. So please reach out to Mr. Spear, Mr. Knopper. They've got a list of all the speakers and stuff already on their webpage, so you can have a look and probably find out what times those would be at. Any other questions, comments? I hurt their causes, so I shouldn't have. All right, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is carried. Okay, so we're done the back and forth between the two, so at this time, that actually takes us through all the motions, right? We are now into new business. Let's start, Mr. Spear, with the brush.
Thank you, Worship. So, Council, it wasn't on the agenda because it was kind of added after the photocopier had blown up type of thing, but what is going on? So the town has had a brush pickup program or a brush drop-off program too for years and years, probably at least 15 as far as I can remember. But we've run into some issues over the last few years. So the program, as you know, is that we leave Public Works open during their opening hours, and people come in and drop off larger limbs. And then during the leaf pickup, we also allow people, if they will bundle their stuff into 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot piles, we'll pick those up. So what we're talking about is a drop-off pile. And the drop-off pile has gotten kind of out of hand. We've got everything from white goods being dropped off to garbage and things. And there's a little bit of a safety issue because there's people coming in while backhoes are moving in dump trucks and stuff. As you know, it's in the back end of the yard. And so we'd like to, with your blessing, I guess, we'd like to be able to change the way the program works. And so we'd like to have it so that once a month between May and October, Public Works on the last business day of the month will go around, probably by appointment, just to make it a little easier, and pick up right off the front of people's yards. Then they can collect it and take it out of town to the approved dump site. it seems to be the most efficient way. This was actually brought forward by public works staff and not senior management. And so they think it's within their capacity to handle it. A couple of years ago, council approved a thumb attachment on our backhoe, so they can go along and just pick up what they can with the thumb attachment and drop it in the truck. And then whatever needs to be picked up by hand after that can be picked up. The other issue that we've had is that the contractors are getting less excited about trying to deal with this brush pile as it grows, because it's pretty near a week's worth of work for them to come in every year, and they've got so many other commitments. And so it would free up some space in public works. It would also aim the white goods where they should go. I mean, there's a pickup program for the white goods. You just have to call the landfill and they'll send somebody in to get it. And it also reduce the littering around the yard or having a whole bunch of stuff thrown into our blue bins. What it will mean is that we'll lock the yard once the program starts or moving forward to discourage the public from going through the public works yard anymore.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And we probably have to do quite an awareness thing so people are aware of the change. Should this, are you looking for council consensus on that? Is that what you're looking for? Because it's kind of a CAO decision in the same sense, right?
Well, it's a pretty major level change of service, so I wouldn't want to do that and tell you afterwards for
Makes
sure.
sense. Yeah, council, just for years, staff may be aware, I had concerns over the commitment that is from staff, especially with all the storms we had this year. But staff was pretty sure that this actually would be something that they could handle and stop some of the contractors that are dumping commercial goods in the pile, but also people dumping materials that shouldn't be in the pile as well. So for them to want to do the extra work, not saying they're not keen, it obviously indicates to me that there is a challenge happening with the current program, because typically people don't try to make more work for themselves, right? Council, over to you for thoughts or comments. Councillor Ware.
Well, I have a couple of concerns, I guess. I see no indication of how many limbs, pieces of brush and stuff and somebody has to have to call in to make an appointment. And I don't think we're doing anything to encourage self-sufficiency amongst the population. I can see this turning into just as bad a mess as we have or administrative nightmare as we have already, with numerous people calling in with very small amounts. Costs money to drive around town with a forklift or a backhoe with a thumb on it. And and here's a little pile of stuff that somebody with a pair of gloves can pick up and throw on the truck. And, I think there has to be more thought put into it than just merely saying, we're going to start picking your stuff up. It's, I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, so just for clarity, just because I was kind of wondering how it works, so it'll be 1 day a month that it's offered for 6 months. So it wouldn't be like it would go every single day. It would be just that 1 day a month that would go. But to your point, there would probably be some big piles, but there'd probably be some really small piles too that they would still have to go pick up because you're not going to quantify what constitutes the call, to your point, right? It is important to note that in the old boundaries, so they call it the traditional town boundaries, there's no burning allowed, right? So that's a limitation. So it does have to go somewhere, not supposed to go in landfill. That's why Public Works originally opened it up. I do have concerns over, to me, almost setting up cameras to find out who's doing the stuff that shouldn't be doing might be easier, but I do put trust in Mr. Acton and the Public Works to know what they think is best for their department. Anyone else? Okay, I guess I'll be looking for consensus. Yep, Councillor Harlan, sorry.
So with this, are you recommending that this be a pilot for this year to see how it goes, and then we can reevaluate it?
Yeah, for sure. And if we find it's out of control even early on over the first 2 or 3 months, we can say, okay, we'll just go back to the open yard in August, September, October type of thing.
Right.
Just to see how that works.
Okay, I think that's important for the public to know that we're trying a pilot to see how it goes, and it will be reevaluated. Obviously, we'll take into consideration the public's feedback around that as well, but there could be changes along the way, so.
Yeah, and just to add a couple of points, because I put it up to a lot of people, and there's no really good spot in St. Andrews to bring this stuff. You can actually bring it to the landfill, but that's a heck of a long ways for most people. A couple of the communities I talked to actually bottled gravel pits and had it gated and let people just bring in and drop off. I know one of our neighboring communities will do the pickup, but it's only once a year. That they'll have one day a year that you can put out the brush, and then another day of the year they'll do large pickup items. So it's a higher level of service for sure than for most other communities, but once you institute it, you kind of have to continue it without a lot of people complaining about it. So I'll take your direction for sure, but certainly it wouldn't have been something I would have thought on my own, but Public Works seems to think it might be the most efficient way at the end of the day to do it.
Okay, Councillor Heenan.
Well, first off, I really want to thank the town workers for coming up with this, because it really is, it's dedication. And I think that when the decision or an idea comes from the ground level, they really do know what they're talking about. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
I just want to say and reiterate what Councillor Heenan has said, that Public Works has brought this forward, and they have a good understanding of what they're doing. So I think, yes, as a trial basis or whatever, it's a good idea that they brought it forward, and we support them because they have the background and knowledge for that. Thank you.
Councillor Blanchard.
Yeah, just on that, I mean, especially given the large number of storms we've had this year, the large wind events, I expect there's probably going to be a higher than normal number of large branches and things like that. So I think even in that sense, just if it's a trial, even for this year, it might be beneficial to the community as a whole to be able to just put larger branches and things like that out in front in a pile, as opposed to bundling up all the branches as was done previously. So I think that might be a benefit to this year, and see how it goes.
Yeah, and I guess, from another way to look at it is currently we're handling it twice. So people are driving in their cars, dropping it off, then construction crews come in, load it into dump trucks and take it out of town. Well, at least this way our crews are going to load it into trucks and then just unload it in the current landfill that we're able to use, and continue that for the foreseeable future.
Perfect. And just a quick clarified question. Is there any, I assume they get it to the side of the road, whatever they get to the side of the road will probably be short enough for them to move it. Is there any concern over setting a maximum length or anything like that?
Sorry, setting them back.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's any concern over people putting a length of whether it be part of a tree.
We'll be telling them it's 8 foot lengths is the
8 foot
most.
lengths, okay.
It's the width of the trailer.
So that'll be part of the education element as well, which works out well, because if we get consensus tonight, we have a newsletter just coming right around the corner, right? So that's probably why you need an answer tonight if possible. Okay. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you. I guess, people aren't supposed to be putting their garbage out before 8 o'clock the night before, but we see a lot of people that are doing that maybe a couple of days in advance sometimes. What I worry about, I guess, is that if people miss the day, there's a big pile of brush that's getting added to that's going to sit there for the rest of the month. I'm just not sure that's a great look for the community. And I'm wondering if there's a provision for, maybe we can put something in there to say that you can't pile your brush in front of your house throughout the month for anticipation of
coincidentally, the next item has to do with the garbage bylaws or the solid waste removal bylaw, so it could be incorporated into that under the same conditions. Especially where it goes by appointment, it makes it a little easier, and like appointment not break to the hour, but at least so we know roughly what homes are there, so we can go out and pick it up. We might give, we can talk about it, and I made a note that maybe we'll bring a policy to the next meeting for council's review just to see how the mechanics of it looks. Because at the same time, if we don't want people, they may get a professional come in and cut up their stuff, then have to drag it out to the front of the road, 2 or 3 days before, so, to try to line up with their pickup. So we might want to extend the amount of time for that. I appreciate what you're saying for sure. But on the flip side, it's no different than the leaf pickup, which, it gets out there and it's not always picked up on the same day. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days for our crews to make a round and grab them. So, but it's a good point.
Perfect. So I guess what you're looking for is consensus if you'd like to see that draft brought forward then. And again, this is a pilot project to your question. I guess the only other thing is commercial or dumping. Not saying everyone that has a commercial called landscaping company is doing this, but some are. The concern is they just chop it up and put it by the road, and we don't really get away from the problem because instead of having it all together, they have it at multiple locations, so there's no real reason to haul it, right? So it may not necessarily clean that up.
Well, the other thing, Your Worship, I think when they say commercial, I mean, there shouldn't be a difference if I'm capable of cutting the limbs up and then somebody else has to hire somebody to cut up the same limbs. I think when they talk about commercial, it's meaning someone clearing out a lot of land in order for a new development or doing significant
That we'd notice.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so council, just quick consensus, if you'd like staff to bring forward, I guess you call it a draft for this pilot project. That's enough. So we're good, thank you. Next one is, let's keep the theme going. This one is garbage removal as it, I guess, pertains to multiple residential.
So council, we've got an initial draft already prepared at the office, but going through other municipalities' bylaws, we see lots of best practices that we should incorporate into ours. Ours is very old, and so we just like to update it. But really, the number one thing that's come forward is what to do with multiple residential units. So in St. Andrews, we got the number today, we almost fell over. There's 57 different, what we call municipal residential units. We have 2 classifications, 1 and 2. And so there's 58 that fall under both. There's 8 that would fall into numbers that are above 4. So for just about every municipality in New Brunswick, they limit the number of units that they'll pick up curbside to 4 units. And then anything above that, it's up to the landlord to make recommendations. Council's been using this in the past as an incentive, a building incentive, if you know, like we've had some of our current larger apartment buildings and developments that are in progress that we've thrown in solid waste removal as part of it, but for a limited period, usually 2 years. And so we're getting to the end of those periods, and I just really need direction on that. Within the staff report, I had mentioned that, an argument could be made that these larger buildings account, their property taxes are significant. But at the flip side, then you have commercial buildings could say the same thing and such, and so it's just really a question of following some sort of standard. In regards to economic development or buildings incentive or whatever have you, I'm still wondering if that could be on a case-by-case basis, that we set the bylaw as is, and then as new developments come along, we'll say you've got X amount of time for free garbage until everything goes up and running. And then, or if it's something worthwhile, I don't know, for instance, this NBCC project we've been talking about for a long time, that if it follows through and it's supposed to be, low income and very affordable housing as much as we can make it, we may say that the town will make that part of the curbside or something, whatever it looks like. But I think there's options outside of the bylaw that we can do this, so I'm just looking for direction on any further information you need or how many units you think is appropriate, if you'd like to continue subsidizing some of the larger facilities. I will say that some of the housing units that were having their own garbage pickup, once we started making arrangements with new developers, started throwing it on the curb. So it's added some cost to it by going that route. So we just need a little more discussion, and then I said we're just on the verge of being able to bring a version of the bylaw to the next meeting, just waiting for a little more instruction from you, or if there's any more questions you have.
All right, council. So for that one, I think I'd almost like just to see what the draft looks like. Personally, though, what jumped out at me in the report is I would actually like to see a provision for people that are doing affordable developments, because they are paying essentially the double tax and making them affordable. I think it'd be nice to give an incentive for making it affordable, but in the same sense, if you're charging $2,600 per unit, I think you could probably charge $2,610 and get the garbage removed on your own. So for me, that part of the staff report I actually liked, and I know affordable is a very tough term because of the fact that you look at a percentage of income and everybody's different, but if you set thresholds where if you charge under this rent, it's good, and then if it's over, then you take care of your own. I know it's a little bit of a slippery slope, but it gives incentive for people to provide affordable housing. It's not a big one, but it is one just the same, and we're paying for it right now anyway, right? But as we have more of these multiple residential zoning developments, it does add to the cost to the municipality. We are getting a tax base, but it does add to the cost as well. So over to you. But for me, I'd be interested to see what staff brings forward, because we can always decide at that time, since it's something there. Over to you. Questions, comments? Councillor Hurdle.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just my only comment would be, if we're thinking about it in the phrase of, and I think you used the word, Mr. Spear, of subsidizing businesses for garbage collection, I think there's a bit of a trick in there if we think about it, across the whole community, because it's not just multi-unit residential buildings that are making a profit off of people staying there. You also have to look at short-term rentals. People have multiple tenants across town that are making a profit off people staying there. So I don't think we should be looking at it from the point of view as, is the property owner making a profit off it and should we be subsidizing it, because that's a large part of the town. I think instead we should probably be looking at it in terms of units per building and not whether or not there's a profit involved. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Seems like the standardized across the board, looking at other people's, is that 4+ units, right? Councillor Enid.
Yes, Your Worship. I was president of a condo board for 20 years in Fredericton, and we were 20 units that each paid property tax, but the town would not pick up. Only 4 units or less is the restriction that the town or the city of Fredericton put on all their buildings. So if you had 4 units or less, you got free pickup, but after that, you paid for your own disposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? Okay, I'll be looking for consensus if you'd like staff just to bring forward what they're looking at. Again, if they could maybe include it or not, or at least have a footnote of what affordability would look like, because I would like to myself weigh that out. And then we can add it, or we can remove it or keep it in depending on council's pleasure. All in favor of that, just staff bringing that forward to us, just a quick show? Yeah, okay, so we'll take a look at that. All right, we are now into question period. We'll start asking if there's anybody, I guess you could say, on the screen that's asking on Zoom tonight.
There's no attendees on Zoom.
Okay, any questions emailed throughout the course of the meeting?
No.
Perfect. And I don't think anyone in the audience? Don't pan to them, Flo. All right, that moves us into Councillor Deputy Mayor's comments. Over to you. Any comments from Councillor Deputy Mayor? I've got Councillor Blanchard.
Thank you, Worship. Just wanted to bring forward a few items from the Environmental Advisory Committee, just as an FYI for council and for the public. April the 20th, we are, there's a young lady in St. Stephen, Lydia Stubbert, who has organized community cleanup. Last year was the first year. This is the second year, and she's trying to expand it out to Charlotte County wide. So she and her mother approached the town to get organized, or to be part of that. We have discussed it at the Environmental Advisory Committee. Town staff, I believe, is going to post something on the website and through our social media to try and get the word out. And so we're going to, so I would say just sort of keep an eye on that for details on how to participate. And again, as I said, April the 20th is the day, pickup day, cleanup day. Also, I wanted to just make note of a couple other things. One, in regards to Shamcook Lake. So Brian Glebe is a member of the Environmental Advisory Committee, also a scientist, a marine scientist who's lived and worked in this community for a number of years. He has been monitoring the ice in and ice out at Shamcook Lake for the last 50 years. And this year was the latest the ice had come in and the earliest the ice had gone out. And based on that, he's also been monitoring cyanobacteria in the lake for quite some time. And he is expecting, or at least is forecasting, potentially a significant year for cyanobacteria, given that the ice has been out so early, and also the fact that we've had such amount of rainfall and nutrient flow into the lake at this time of the year. So just wanted to sort of raise that, because we were discussing sort of, again, earlier with the carbon neutral and greenhouse gas emissions and all those sorts of things. It is having an effect in our community, a noticeable effect in our community, so just wanted to make note of that. Also, fishing line containers for old fishing line. There are containers that are starting to go up, I believe, down around the wharf. So if people come across sort of old fishing line things that are sort of hanging out and around, there's now a dispenser, a place to put those things, and that's actually a partnership, I think, with Eastern Charlotte Waterways.
Through your wishes, it's actually a class of students at the Sir James Dunn Academy that are building these units for us. They designed the signs. We've had them produced. There's going to be 5 units that'll be built, and they'll be easily accessible to the public to put.
Same class that had the cigarette disposals, I'm assuming, where they're doing community projects to help the environment?
I think so.
Yeah,
I know that.
Pretty impressive the school's doing that.
I know that the marine biologist Jenny Simard is leading that,
Right.
so she's
Nice.
working with the schools on that
Yeah,
project.
Thank you, Paul. Mr. Knopper. And also, just one last thing, the Environmental Advisory Committee is going to support the Mayor's Monarch Pledge by using some of its funds to purchase seed kits to distribute at Earth Fest, which is June 21st. So those seed kits will include sort of seeds for pollinator gardens for butterflies, but also include milkweed as well for the monarch. So just want to make mention of that. Thank you.
Good to see my pledge come to life. Thanks to them. Anyone else? Councillor Ware. Then we'll go Councillor Michelle.
Your microphone, Councillor.
Number one, I got to mention Mervyn. I think I get more emails from him than I do from the town. Because the Bayside Hall, you know, and he's rejuvenated the committee. The committee members are very active because he's always had us to do something, lock up and open up, and we did finish the kitchen. Mr. Spear may be able to tell me the exact cost, but we did come in under budget. All new counters, everything's up to code, the entire thing, and the committee paid for that. The town did not pay anything towards it. So, but, you know, Mervyn has rejuvenated the committee is what he's effectively done. The other thing I wanted to bring up was funding. I noticed some funding, additional funding in the provincial budget for the transition of the governance reform in New Brunswick. I'm just wondering, the financial modeling we do for the budget process, I think comment was made last fall that it was time to redo the spreadsheets and update them and to properly reflect everything we're now doing. And if there's any opportunity there to get some money to invest in that, because I realize it's a big undertaking for town staff to take on redoing those spreadsheets and that type of thing. I've done it all my life, so I know how long it takes, so very time consuming. But I don't know where you'd find a qualified person unless the federation is willing to do it for a whole, do a sort of a blank one up for a group of municipalities. So something I'd throw out there. So.
Okay, looks like staff will take that under advisement and follow up. Perfect. Thank you very much, Councillor Ware. Appreciate it. Any other member of council? Councillor Gumichel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just briefly, I wanted to say how pleased I was to read the motion tonight about extending the trail down to the Bar Road. The trail has been, we've only been at it about 10 years, and we're certainly a leader in the province with regard to our size and the number of trails that we have. The trail was originally a project of the Kiwanis Club, St. Andrews, so wanted to say thank you to them. And then it evolved into a local group called Sortie. Some of the members include Roger McNabb, Tim Jarvis, Joe Harrison, Dr. Johnson, of course, Steve Saunders, and local engineer and civil engineer Alan Fiander. And then also other members and other groups that have brought the trail to fruition include the local advisory committee, the town's advisory committee, and Mark Holes on that, and also Councillor Hurdle, and of course town staff. So it's been a lot of partnerships and a lot of years and a lot of sweat, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but definitely wanted to say thanks to all involved for bringing this forward. I think it's a wonderful project, and hopefully it'll kickstart our new Passamaquoddy Lodge. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. And a lot of those names are serving the community in multiple ways too. When you say some of them, that's for sure. And on that note, congratulations on finishing in the semifinals of the E division of the closing bonspiel at the Heather Curling Club last weekend with an 0-3 record. The combined score of 28-9 against. But who's keeping track? Any other member? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Just a couple of things. Drumming will be again Wednesday night, tomorrow night, April the 3rd, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the United Church with Sebastian leading and his wife. So many thanks to them because they're continuing this all the time. And it's great to see the drummers out drumming. So even if you don't have a drum, come because he has extra drums. So please show up at 6 to 8 tomorrow night. And thanks to everybody who dropped off bags for me to deliver to the food bank. They really appreciate it. You can continue to do that. I hope that staff doesn't mind if we drop them off there. Thank you very much. And thanks to the Easter Bunny who drove by on his bike and excited a few little kids that I saw on Main Street, on Water Street. They were so excited to see the bunny on a bike. So thank you very much to the person that rode through. Thank you very much, Your Worship and Council.
Thank you. He was on the way to my house, I believe, on that bike ride. So very nice of that individual. Perfect. Anyone else? Okay, just a reminder to the public that on April 11th, the Chamber of Commerce is hosting their Business Awards Gala. Tickets are still available. I think they're down to their final few tables, but for anyone that would like to go, they're going to be celebrating a number of different things from Business Leader of the Year to Organization of the Year and a number of other things. It'll be at Drew Haven, and it's a pretty good ticket value as well. So wanted to put that out there. So Council, I'm going to be looking at 8:35 p.m. to go to closed session as per Local Governance Act 68(1)(c), which is information that could cause financial loss or gain to a person or the local government, or could jeopardize negotiations leading to an agreement or contract, and Section 68(1)(j), labor and employment matters, including the negotiation of collective agreements. Could I please have someone move? Got Councillor Heenan and seconded by Councillor Bennett. All in favor of going to closed session, please signify by saying aye. Perfect. We'll give the audience a moment to get out and appreciate everyone attending this evening.